Then this is one of the other reasons I was really excited about coming to speak at the U. Partly because I knew if I ever were to go speak at BYU, they'd make me shave my beard, but also because one of the artists who I really like, Robert Smithson, spoke here in 1972, and he gave a lecture about a trip that he took to the Yucatan. And soon after that, he died in a plane crash. And you know, the lecture here was recorded on audio, and they filmed it. And so it sort of is part of the ephemera of Smithson, and anyone who sort of starts to study Smithson comes across it. And when I got interested in maybe in the early 90s in maybe trying to collect some of Smithson's work, I started studying up and went to go find out about the Hotel Palenque lecture. And so I got the tape and watched it. And you know, I have a clip. It's kind of odd. But you know, in the pictures he took here, you know, he went in 1969, 3 years earlier, before he did the jetty, the spiral jetty. He went to the Yucatan with his wife, Nancy Holt, who's also an artist, and his dealer, Virginia Dwan. Then they took a trip around, and they were like exploring the ideas of ruins. But and he built these sculptures called the Yucatan mirror displacements, which were he embedded mirrors in the jungle and in the sand, and you know, 9 different spots around the Yucatan Peninsula. And then he took photographs of them, and then he showed the map of where these things, the coordinates of these things, and the photographs. I mean, he put them first in an Art Forum article, but then they became very well known and well discussed as, you know, examples of his non-sites, which were these works that, you know, existed in some form in a place and then sort of transported back to some other place, in this case the gallery or an art magazine. So they're very well known, and a well-known aspect of his work, these Yucatan mirror displacements. So when he came when he was invited to speak here in 1972 about the Yucatan, people were probably expecting that he would be speaking about his most famous work from the Yucatan, or perhaps they were expecting that he would speak about the jetty, which he had completed just a little while before. Instead, what he spoke about was some other photos that he took while on his Yucatan vacation of this hotel called the Hotel Palenque, which is this weird, I mean, it's not weird, it's totally normal, I guess, if you're going to the Yucatan, where it's like, you know, half under construction and half falling apart. He was speaking at the architecture school, so there's sort of architectural tone to whatever he was talking about. But he, here's the thing, he was drunk. I found out, I talked to people who were here, who went to the lecture. The only thing he asked for preparation was a bottle of Jim Beam. And he got drunk and gave the lecture about, and it was a parody of the kind of architectural slideshows that you get in, like, you know, in the sort of academic jargon kind of thing. There was a transcript made of it. You know, let's just play a second of it here. You can get a sense. And this is how this lecture existed for 25 years. It's really remarkable. Yeah, that's about all.
We're free as a cow plant or something. I go into flower power. Just wanted to do his first day on the job, so I castrated cattle.
Yeah, castrated cattle. Yeah. Then we went down to work for free, and his first day was on the job. All the avatars of the Mexican gods are harmony, and they're quite fierce. If you ever go down there, be on guard. Be on guard for the deities of the Mexican avatars of the Mexican deities.
Here's another shot. Here you can see. So you can see the modern part of the building now. It should be starting to take shape in your mind at this point. You should be getting the point of trying to win. There's no point, actually. That's the no point because
it stays like this for about 2 minutes. Anyway, that was the Hotel Palenque for about 20 years. Till 1993, Smithson's star starts coming back, and of course he's been long passed away. His estate is really rather small and depleted. But in 1993, this slideshow and an audio tape of this was shown in a exhibition of Smithson's photography. And then, where'd it go? Then in 1995, a whole transcript of this lecture, most of which, I mean, you know, it's about drunk hippies, flower power, castrating cattle. And look, there's our car in the background. I mean, you know, it was published alongside the photographs in Market magazine. In 1999, the Guggenheim bought this lecture as a multimedia installation from the estate. Or let me rephrase that. The estate sold this lecture to the Guggenheim as a multimedia installation for a significant but undisclosed sum. I've talked to people who were in on the, collectors who were in on the, asked to pony up to buy this. And they also bought the mirror displacement, which of course only existed in a magazine and in the negatives in the archive, Smithson archive. But, you know, the retrospective of Smithson was at MoCA and at the Whitney a couple years ago. This, again, this multimedia installation, Hotel Palenque, was on display. So, you know, I don't, for a lot of artists, I get a lot of inspiration from a lot of drugs. And I would not, my grandmother and mother are in the back row when I just said that, so awesome. But, you know, so I wouldn't automatically discount the fact that because he was drunk or because he was making a parody of an academic setting, that the Hotel Palenque is not art. But I don't think that there was any documentation that Smithson ever thought it was art until, throughout his life. And it certainly was never exhibited as art until, as far as I know, as far as I was able to find in the Smithson archives, until 1993. And interestingly, you know, with most of the art gone from the estate, this is kind of all that was left for the estate to sell. And, you know, they switched dealers right around the time this sold. I know that when I was looking at buying some Smithson art, you know, they come up with these sort of exhibition, or like estate prints, you know, of these, in these giant, beautiful photo grids, and beautiful, like, sea prints. Like, sea print technology exists when Smithson was alive. That was not, you know, it was not Smithson's art. So again, it's the, you know, I was like, I wanted my 70s art to look like it was made in the 70s, I guess was my problem. But then, shouldn't you know, I mean, so it's a little problematic for me, which, you know, brings me to the last thing.